morning, my dear students. Today we'll be discussing about social science constitutional design takedown. So in this topic we have two major subtopics. Democratic Constitution. Democratic Constitution in South Africa. And a need of a constitution. Second, making of the Indian Constitution. And its guiding values. Let us have the overview of this chapter. Apartheid in South Africa. What do you mean by apartheid? Blacks white separation. நிறவெறின்னு சொல்கிறோம்ல தமிழில். Then making of the Indian Constitution. Making of the Indian Constitution. So this apartheid divided the people on the basis of the color. On the basis of color as blacks and whites. And they framed the Constitution. Constitution. What do you mean by Constitution? A set of written basic rules. A set of written basic rules. Can you develop a flashcard so that it should be useful to others? A set of written basic rule. Basic rules accepted by the people of the country. By all people of the country. Making of Indian Constitution, that can be further divided as the path to Constitution. Then the Constituent Assembly. The Constituent Assembly. So that we were able to get some guiding value. Guiding values. And there arises two important aspects. Guiding values of the Indian Constitution. There arises two aspects: the philosophy of the Constitution, the philosophy of the Constitution, then institutional design. Institutional design. So this chapter actually focuses the development of a South African constitution and the Constitution of India. That is how they were made, in which the circumstances or the condition. Then the concept of institutional designs is discussed in this chapter. Apartheid refers to the official policy of racial discrimination and ill treatment of blacks followed by the government of South Africa between 1948 and 1889. 1848, 1889. Now let us discuss the democratic constitution in South Africa and need of a constitution. Take down democratic constitution in South Africa. South Africa was actually colonized by the Europeans during the 17th and the 18th century. Europeans during 17th and 18th centuries. The trading company, the trading companies occupied with arms and force. Occupied South Africa with arms and forces. Thereby, a large number of whites settled in South Africa. Settled in South Africa, and they become local rulers. Whites in large number. The term apartheid actually means apartness. Apartness means separation. Apartness. So this means racial discrimination. Followed in South Africa. Actually, it was a system which restricted social contacts between the races. They enforced the segregation of public facilities, separated the education standards, created race-specific job categories. So, separation in public facilities. Education system. Job categories. Voting system. So they formed different rules for blacks and whites, and thereby they separated the public facilities, education system, job categories, voting system, etc. Actually, they restricted the powers of non-white unions. They denied the voting and voting rights of non-whites, and thereby they see to that there is no non-white participation in the government. So they curbed means controlled non-white participation in government, so that they cannot be rulers. In the government. The apartheid system actually was oppressive for the blacks. Apartheid system oppressed the blacks. Actually, these black people, they were forbidden from living in white areas. They cannot simply enter the white areas. They should have a proper permit or pass to enter into what? The white area where they can work. So work permit was insisted. Work permit insisted in white area. Trains, buses, taxis, hotels, hospitals, schools, colleges, libraries, cinema halls, theaters, beaches, swimming pools, public toilets, all these facilities were all actually separate for blacks and whites. And this was also called segregation. Trains, buses, taxis, that is, the black cannot travel along with the white. They cannot eat along with white in hotels. And they were not treated in hospitals where whites are there. So there were separate hospitals for whites and blacks, and also for schools, colleges, for blacks and whites. Even the blacks cannot worship in churches along with whites. Not allowed to worship in churches, in white churches. And blacks are not allowed to form any association. They cannot form unions. Blacks not allowed to form unions. Form association or union. Now let us discuss about the composition. Of South African population. The native of South Africa are black. The native people of South Africa are black. Actually, they constitute 3/4 of South Africa, the population. And remaining part white, and they are colored also, the mixed varieties. And people from India, that is, people migrated from India. Now let us talk about the African National Congress, ANC. Since 1950, blacks and colored, blacks, colored and Indians fought against the apartheid system. They launched protest marches and strikes. Protest marches and strikes. ANC was an umbrella organization. That led the struggle against the policy of segregation. Struggle against policy of segregation. Actually, the party included many workers' unions and communist parties. Many sensitive whites also joined. The ANC to oppose apartheid and played the leading role in this struggle. Not only that, several other countries denounced the apartheid system. And declared as an unjust policy. Role of Nelson Mandela. He participated in the independence of South Africa. And he was sentenced to life imprisonment. In 1964 for daring to oppose the apartheid government. He spent 28 years in South African prison. In Robben Island. Then later, Africa was moving towards a new constitution. As protests and struggles against the apartheid system increased, the white government realized that they could not longer keep the blacks under their rule through repression. So the white regime changed its policies. Discriminatory laws repealed. Repealed means revoked, cancelled. தமிழில் ரத்து செய்யப்பட்டதுன்னு சொல்கிறோம்ல. Ban on political parties, on the restriction on the media lifted. So lifted the ban on political parties. And restriction on media. After 28 years of imprisonment, Nelson Mandela was released. You just imagine, he almost spent his lifetime, 1/3 of his lifetime in prison. So after 28 years, so he has done such a great sacrifice for his country. After 28 years of imprisonment, Nelson Mandela freed. At the midnight of 26 April 1994, Republic of South Africa was newly born. As a democratic country in the world. So the new national flag was unfurled. The apartheid government came to an end. Thereby, it paved the way for the formation of multiracial government. Basis of, let us move to the next topic. Basis of New South Africa. Black leaders appealed to their fellow blacks to forgive whites. For their atrocities. And the black leaders appealed to fellow blacks. Leaders viewed New South Africa based on equality of all races. The Constitution of New South Africa gave to its citizens the most extensive rights available in any country. Together, the blacks and whites decided to search for a solution to the problems. No one should be excluded and no one should be treated as a demon. The native Africans and whites agreed that everybody should become the part of the solution. Whatever they might have done in the past, past is past, think about future. That was the way the new South Africa was born. Which year? 1994. Now let us discuss the need of a constitution. What do you mean by constitution? It is a set of rules, is it not? Set of written rules. That are accepted by all people living together in a country. That are accepted by all people living together in a country. Constitution is the supreme law. That determines the relationship among people living in a territory and also the relationship between the people and the government. So, relation among people and between the people and government. In fact, the Constitution generates the trusts, the degree of trusts. And coordination that is necessary for different kind of people to live together. That unites different people. It specifies how the government will be constituted. Who will have powers to take the decision? That is authorities and accountability. It tells the rights of the citizens. It expresses the aspirations of the people about creating a good society. It expresses the aspiration of people. Actually, it motivates the people. About creating a good society. After all, we had to live peacefully in a good society. Okay, so this is all about the South African developments. Shall we discuss some questions? Okay. Who were called the blacks in South Africa? The native people of South Africa. They are the native people. Their skin are black in color. And how about their ratio in their population? 3/4. The white rulers treated all blacks as dash inferiors. I have fought against white domination and I have fought against black domination. I have cherished the ideal of a democratic and free society in which all persons live together in harmony with equal opportunities. It's an ideal which I hope to live for and to achieve. Who stated this? Nelson Mandela. What is ANC? African National Congress. What is segregation in South Africa? Blacks and whites were separated. They have separate facilities, public utilities like trains, buses, taxis, hotels, hospitals, colleges, schools, then libraries, cinema halls, theaters, beaches, swimming pool, public toilets, all were separate for whites and blacks. So that was called segregation. State the ideals which inspired our national leaders. The ideals of French and American Revolution. They prompted our Indian national leaders also. Of course, the African national leaders also. Dash is the official policy of racial separation and all treatment for blacks followed by the government of South Africa between 1948 and 1989. Apartheid. There were native people of South Africa and whites. Apart from them, they were Indians, and there were another society called Dash, which are the mixed races. They were called Dash, colored. So, what are the types of people lived in South Africa? Blacks, whites, colored, and Indians migrated. Okay, migrated Indians. Nelson Mandela spent dash years in South African's prison. 28 years. And which island? Robben Island. At the midnight of dash in 1994, South Africa got freedom. 26th April 1994. And who was declared as the first president of Republic of South Africa? Nelson Mandela. What were the changes made by the government of South Africa as a due to increase in protests? They realized, and what were the changes they did? The white regime changed its policies. Discriminatory laws were repealed. ban on political parties and restrictions on media were lifted. What is constitution?
A set of rules.
A set of
rules
written rules that are accepted by all people living together in a country. Okay, so we will discuss the Indian Constitution in the next class, right?